Hello. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. So welcome to the RMCAT session. So I'm Anna Brunström. This is my co-chair, Colin Perkins. Martin Stimmerling is the third co-chair. He's not here in Montreal. So thank you for coming for this last day on the Friday morning. Yes. No way. This is the note well. I think you all know it by now. It sets the rules for the participation in the IETF. If not, then please read it. Some administrative points to start with. We need a Jabber scribe and a minute taker. Anyone on Jabber? You can do it. Thanks, Miriam. Minute taker. Anyone who can help out with some minutes? It should be an easy session. We have a quite short agenda. No one?
Who can take brief notes?
It's not going to run for we only requested a 1 hour slot, so we're not going to use the whole. You can take some notes. Okay, thank you. So, as I said, we will not need the 2 hours. We had only requested a shorter slot. So we have a fairly short agenda. We're going to start by going through the status of the documents for the working group. Colin will give an update on the feedback message for RTCP feedback, the draft that is now in AVT core. And then we want to briefly discuss some points for how to move forward. We have a framework document that we need to discuss a little bit if we want to progress that at this point. And there's also been some discussion about the possible hackathon, so we wanted to gauge the interest in that. So let's move on and look at the status of where we are with the working group documents. So we have one new RFC published since last time, RFC 8382. So this is the shared bottleneck detection draft. Then we have the NADA congestion control. So this one has, Martin is the shepherd for that. He did the shepherd review, and we are now just waiting for the updates based on his comments there. And then that draft is ready to proceed to the IESG. We have the coupled congestion control draft that is already in the RFC editor queue. It's waiting for the NADA draft. So we expect to get both of those drafts out quite soon. And then we have an expired draft on the GCC congestion control. And the chairs have had some discussion with the authors there, and they are not planning to pursue that draft further at this moment. So once we get the NADA draft through, we will be done with this round of documents for the algorithms coming out of the working group as experimental algorithms in the first step. We have a requirements draft that's in the RFC editor queue since a very long time, waiting for some WebRTC documents. And then we have the evaluation drafts. So we have 3 of these drafts that are in the working group last call: the eval test draft, the eval criteria, and the video traffic models. And we, according to the original schedule, this working group last call closed today, but we really need some more reviews of these drafts to take them forward. So we've had the 2 reviews on the video traffic model, And this one, actually, we have a new version of that was submitted last night that takes those comments into account. So this draft actually has the wrong number on it. We are now at 05, but still we need some more comments and reviews. Do we have some people that can help review these drafts? To help push them through? So, Xiaojing?
Yeah, I can sign up for reviewing the eval criteria draft.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sorry, can you say that again?
She said she can help review the eval criteria draft. She's the co-author on the other two, so so we really need some reviewers for those as well.
Unfortunately, we can't progress these documents until we have some more reviews.
Yeah.
Mia Kulevan. So the test specification and the criteria were on hold for quite a while, and there were like tons of reviews at the very beginning, right? So I don't think a lot changed since.
No, there's not a lot of change, but we still need some review on the final documents. There has been some updates, right?
I mean, there will at least be the working group last call where you need definitely reviews in the working group last call.
We are in the working group last call. That is what I'm talking about.
Okay, sorry. I thought you'd want to start the working group.
No. All those three drafts are in working group last call.
So, okay, but what you actually need is people kind of look at the drafts, maybe even just the diff, and then state to the mailing list that they are okay. So, like, it's not about...
Yes, absolutely. It doesn't have to be a lot of things that you detect should change. Any comment that you have read it, think it's okay, and it's ready to proceed will be very helpful. But we need some feedback from the working group in this step to proceed the drafts. Yes, Zahed?
Jahed, for the eval test, I got an individual review from Colin. I addressed it, but I'm waiting for more reviews so that I can ship out one single change that actually covers most of the reviews. The eval test and both eval criteria draft had recently some changes, but eval test, I don't think like we have changed anything since years. So yeah, just have a diff. Just tell us like what do you think about it. Yeah.
Okay, any more people that can already at this meeting commit to having a look at the drafts and seeing if you're all okay with them? We will also take it to the list, of course, to remind everyone. But we have, as Mia said, these drafts have been debated before and they have been used by the candidate algorithms, so I think they should be in good shape when you read them. Okay. We will also take it to the list to remind people that we do need some reviews. So please help out with that if possible. We have one last draft that belongs to the evaluation draft, the wireless tests drafts. Xiaojing and her colleagues have been working also on integrating this into the NS3 code. So this was why this had been not called out at the same time. Now I think they are still working on that, and there were some NS3 problems, so it's not clear how fast this will be finished. So our plan is to have this draft also go to working group last call as soon as we complete the other three drafts. So it doesn't make sense to send another draft to working group last call while we are waiting to get some feedback on the other three. But that draft is also ready to proceed with the process as soon as we can move the other three documents on. So that is the plan for that. Then we have the RTP-CC feedback draft, which is connected to the ABT core draft, and Colin has updated the calculations for that draft to the latest version of of the feedback message draft, and we have the feedback message draft on the agenda. Colin will give an update on that. Then we've had some drafts on the interfaces, the CC codec interaction, and what is still an individual draft on the framework. And we will return to that point and discuss what to do with these documents at the end of the agenda. We have a number of milestones. We know that they are outdated now, so once we finish the working group last call on the 3 drafts that are outstanding, we will also update the milestones. Okay, so then we move, if there are no other comments or questions, we move on, and let's see if I can find your presentation, Colin. You can take this one. Yes, is it not working? It is full screen.
Okay. Hi, I'm a slightly louder version of Colin Perkins. So I'm here to talk about the RTCP feedback for congestion control. So this was presented in ABT Core earlier this week, so mostly this is, I think, going to be a reprise of that discussion to update the working group what happened. So we submitted the 02 version of this draft just before the meeting, actually, on Sunday, so really just before the meeting. Mostly to address feedback we got from Sergio on the mailing list and a couple of outstanding comments from the previous IETF meeting, which we haven't yet got around to addressing. The changes were mostly relating to the timing and sequence numbers, resynchronizing after loss reports, and fixing up the SDP signaling. And as I say, we talked about this in ABT Core earlier in the week. So the only real technical change, or the only significant technical change in this version of the draft, we've clarified that the NTP format timestamp matches that in SR packets, rather than saying it matches that in SR or RR packets, having finally noticed that RR packets don't have an NTP format timestamp. And based on feedback from Sergio, who is implementing it, we've changed it, so rather than reporting the beginning sequence number and the ending sequence number, it reports the beginning sequence number and the end sequence number plus 1. That, I think, having thought about it a bit more and discussed, will probably change, so we report the beginning sequence number and the length rather than the end sequence number plus 1, which is the same information, and I think it's easier to explain and just as easy to implement. And I had an email discussion with Sergio, who if I read it correctly, seems to agree. So I think we'll make that change pretty quickly. In addition, both of these changes let us signal no packets received as part of this report. You could always infer that from looking at the sender reports or the receiver reports coming back, but having it all in a single block, I think, makes the implementations a little simpler because you don't have to jump between reports. So there's a benefit there as well. The previous versions of the draft had some discussion about what to do with large gaps in the sequence number space as a crude sort of in-window check to make sure the reports were valid. We've added some words in this version that says, if you have actually had a very long outage and you get one of these reports, such that the sequence number has jumped by more than a quarter of the sequence number space, you should probably consider it valid, because if it has actually been long enough that this looks like a valid report. Of course, if you're using SRTP, these will be authenticated anyway, so you can check that they're valid for that reason. We also added a note, again, to do with this in window checks, that you must not put more than 16,384 packet metric blocks in one of these reports. Now, that wasn't actually possible, in UDP because of the MTU considerations, but I guess it's good to clarify it. Finally, the other technical change, we've updated the IANA considerations mostly to register the appropriate SDP parameter, just to allow this to be signaled. And there was a mechanism in RFC 4585, which is the feedback format this extends, which allows you to do the signaling. We've just registered a CCFB tag that goes in those SDP attributes. So that's basically it. The plan is that we will submit the 0.3 version very quickly, change the end sequence number +1 to the length, which will hopefully be the final change to the packet format, and add some more discussion of why we believe this is the right format to use, and some comparison with the draft Holmer feedback mechanism, which I believe is what is implemented in Chrome currently. To explain why we think this is the right approach. And I think it has benefits, partly just future-proofing because it fits RTP better, partly because it allows you to do separate congestion control of the different SSRCs. So if we start sending multiple video streams, it gives you the information to control each one separately, which I don't think the other one does due to the way it uses a single sequence number space. So that is basically it. If there are any comments, I'd be happy to take them into account. If not, as I say, we plan to get this finished in fairly short order.
Jonathan Lennox, just thinking about this briefly. It occurred to me that the no packets received, given that we now have a way of saying no packets received, there should probably be guidance as to when you should send no packets received as opposed to just spamming about every SSRC you've ever heard of, saying, "Hey, I haven't heard anything from this receiver in 3 hours still."
I think it would just be when you're sending a regular report on that receiver, because you'll be sending a reception report anyway, or a sender report anyway. Well, you'll be sending a receiver report, so you haven't received any packets.
Well, I don't think you want to send I think you want to send this for everything you're sending an RR for. In a large group, if like lots of things are in a session where you've got a few occasions, people are. Well, we can talk about it offline, but I don't think it's good.
My assumption all along has been that this gets sent in a compound packet along with either a sender report or a receiver report. But yes, I suppose if you're not doing that, then yes, we should possibly put some guidance in. Yeah, that's true.
I think we have Sergio in the queue.
Hello.
Sergio,
can you hear me?
Hi. Yes.
Good. So just short intervention to corroborate what Colin said. So I mostly agree with the way the remarks have been taken into account, and about the length, we had a mail discussion yesterday with Colin, and I would even add the fact that maybe we could get the first 2 bits of that field reserved, so that the maximum length you can actually encode is 16K, and so this way it's a natural way to limit the the size of the report. So that's all I wanted to say.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, to me that seems reasonable. We could also just write in that you shouldn't put more than 16K of reports in. So, yeah.
And maybe those bits might be useful in the future. You never know. And also to say that so as soon as you upload the new version of it, we will modify our source code to reflect the changes. I'm going to paste I think we have mentioned it in previous meetings, but I'm going to paste the URL to the source code in case anybody's interested in looking into it. I'm going to put it in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, possibly helpful if you send that to the mailing list as well.
Yep. Okay, I will do that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
more questions or comments?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Colin. Right, I just wanted it to go there. Okay, so we wanted to have a few points discussed for how to move forward. So we've had the framework document. We had in the past the CC codec interaction, and then we decided at one point that it would be good to tie these things together and have the framework for the congestion controls, the components that are there, the interactions, and we have an individual draft for that Said and Xiaojing worked on some time ago. At IETF 99, we had this up, and then Varuna and Said took an action point to look at these documents and come back with a suggestion for how to proceed. And we've had some discussion on this topic between Said and the chairs and Varun, and this depends a lot on how the working group wants to proceed here, because the idea with these documents was that we will use them in the next steps when we bring the algorithms further for standardization. So it depends also on the energy we have in the working group to work on these documents at this time. If you see it's useful and if you see your algorithms progressing, and you would be helped by having this document to align the algorithms in the next step. So we'd like to hear some feedback on this. Do we have people that would like to work on these documents at this point, besides the authors from the working group?
Jahid, let's see if I can trigger some discussion here. So the thing is, as we have been looking into the energy of the working group, like the working group last school reviews, is getting hard to get some reviews and stuff like that. When Anna reminded us that we have an action point on us, and we actually, me and Varun, last IETF meeting, we said like we'll work on it, but nothing happened. So it also tells the story of the authors. We're not getting the energy behind from the working group to drive this work, basically. So if we take an example of the framework document, it has a lot of interactions. It has interaction on the transport, interaction to the different modules like codec and stuff like that. That needs a wider range of review to get it right and agree on. Like this is because the framework document can describe different things in a different way. So my question was basically to chairs, like, do we have the working group energy to actually work on this framework document and get it through so that it makes useful? I do see benefit of having this working group working on this framework document, because this will help in the future, especially when you go to a standard track of if somebody new working algorithm comes into RMCAT, that will be very helpful. It will align the terminology, it will align how this interaction happens. And also, I think it helps actually to understand the already existing algorithms we have. And so I see the benefit, but if the working group is like, don't see it, then I'm actually not sure, like if authors should be only pushing it. It should be, the whole framework document came out of like working group wanted to have a framework document. So that would be interesting to know.
Mia Kulevin. So one of the important points about the framework document was also about terminology, because we've been trying to understand where the difference between the different schemes are and where like similarities are, and we're trying to use the same wording. I don't like this only, like some of the words are now the same, some are still different, I guess. So at this point, I guess the most important thing about the framework document would be to if we want to go to proposed standard with more than one scheme, and then to make sure that we really use the same terminology and understand the difference as well. Like even if we just decide we want to go with one of the schemes to propose standard, it's probably not needed. So I guess we could try and just like revive the framework document at the point where we're ready to move on with to propose standard together with the schemes at that point of time, and not do anything work on it right now.
Yeah, it's sounding like we should maybe just put it on hold for a while and until we see if we get some good implementation experience and if there's interest in moving these forward.
Any other comments or feedback on this? Xiaoqing?
Yes, so I'm the author for the framework draft. I just want to also mention that we also have the corresponding implementation in NS3 to reflect the kind of the modulars in congestion control. Maybe one suggestion is, as I understand, this describes the interaction of the congestion control modular with respect to other modulars in the sender. Do we want to get feedback from kind of the broader maybe transport group, sort of, outside of this working group? And I agree with the suggestion so far that the main goal of this framework is to align terminology across multiple candidate schemes within the same modular, sort of multiple embodiments of the same modular. That's my understanding. Yeah, thank you.
So we clearly should have a wider review and input on this document when we take it forward. So I guess the question is, maybe that part will also come. I mean, if we now see that we don't have the energy at this time and we don't really need the document until we get to this point of where we will drive the algorithms to standardization, maybe that will also be the time to approach the broader transport area to get feedback.
Yes, that sounds good to me. Yeah.
Okay, good. So then it seems we agree we will put this on hold until we get further with the experience on the algorithms and see that we can move one or several algorithms forward, and we can then make a decision at that point, depending also on if we have multiple algorithms or not. Okay, good. Then we had one other issue that was brought up briefly in the last meeting as a suggestion, and that was if it would be useful to have a hackathon around the common feedback format. We didn't really follow up in time on that and pursue that for this meeting, so we now wanted to see with the working group if there is interest in this for the next time. So if you have implementations that could try this out, or you would like to help work on this in a hackathon. Anyone?
Jahid. Yeah, I think that's a good idea, actually. The thing is, like, then also, like, some people has implementation of it. I think Sergey has some implementation. Maybe we can think about putting this as a part of the stream out open source thing. I'll have to look into the practicalities of that internally, but yeah, I think that's a valid assumption. Like, we can go this one for open source and implement it in ARM Screams feedback, because the Scream currently doesn't use this one. So yeah.
Okay, so you would be interested to participate? Yep. Okay. Sergio?
So here internally in Cisco, we there's an ongoing effort to, well, on one side, port NADA to the Mozilla browser, right, with export source code, given our experience in previous work we did for the traffic model draft. And at the same time, we have on the to-do list porting the implementation we did on the NS3 RMCAT link that I just shared. We were planning to port this to the Mozilla browser as well. We haven't done it yet, but it's really high in our priority list in terms of things to do in regarding RMCAT. We didn't come up with anything to this meeting because we don't have basically anything to present. But in principle, we might be able to send something to the mailing list shortly about the hackathon. Well, I don't know if we can participate remotely. I personally not sure whether I'll get the funding to get to Bangkok. But if it's if we can participate remotely, I would be very happy to to participate.
I think remote participation is a thing at the hackathons, so we can certainly organize that if it's useful.
Yeah, that is. I would be very interested in doing that remotely. If I can physically, fine, but remotely it's a very good possibility. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we have at least 2 interested implementers. So this we discussed this also possibly together with the AVT core group. Do you have any input, Jonathan, on what you think about some other participation from that group, perhaps?
Jonathan, I mean, I haven't gotten these. We mentioned it in the AVT core group. I didn't get any specific responses. I mean, I might be able to participate, but that's that's not as a chair. That's as a individual. But I didn't get this. I mean, I suspect that probably everybody who'd be interested is also here. So.
If we do this, it's probably worth announcing to AVT.
Oh yeah, I would absolutely announce it. Okay. Maybe some of the so especially if Cisco is working on getting in Mozilla, maybe some of the Mozilla people for that.
Okay, any more comments? It seems there is some interest, and I mean, to have it as a topic in the hackathon doesn't mean you have to have a lot of people, but you need, of course, a small group at least that can interact and get some benefit out of doing it together at that time rather than just hacking on their own. Yeah, so we will follow up on that on the list, but yeah, as we have multiple people, it seems like a possibility. Okay, any other issues or points that anyone would like to bring up? If not, we're at the end of the agenda, so we have a short meeting today. So thank you all for coming, and see you in Bangkok. So I guess we will also probably have a short meeting there to follow up on the feedback, and then maybe on the hackathon and the status. And of course, we're always interested if you start to get some results or experiences with the algorithms. Then let us know, and we will, of course, put that up there. Okay, thank you all, and have good trips back home. Has everyone signed the blue sheet? Anyone that did not sign? Rory?
I'll sign that.
You were not here when I asked for review.
No,
I said, yes, we would very much appreciate it if you could review. So we have the three implementation rounds that are in this last quarter, and they kind of come together.